What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Cap Rack. It is Monday, August 24th. We got 9 MLB games today, 4 NBA games, and 2 NHL games to break down. So I'm going to start with the MLB here. The first game of the day is going to be at 3:10 Eastern. We got the 13-13 Toronto Blue Jays against the 19-10 Tampa Bay Rays. It's Tanner Roark, who's got a 4.7 ERA, 2-1, against Blake Snell, 2-0 with a 3 ERA here. The line is Tampa Bay minus 220. The total set at 8.5. I think the Rays are going to take this one. The line's a little steep. If you want to throw them in a parlay, I think that's a good option here. But Roark has been kind of middle of the line for Toronto this year and really hasn't put them over the edge here. I mean, he's not expected to. He's kind of an aging veteran. He's really just a stopgap at the moment. But yeah, I think the Rays should take this one for sure. So if you want to throw the Rays in a parlay at minus 220, I would not advise against that. I think it's a pretty good play. But taking it straight at minus 220 is probably not a move. So I'm going to move on. At 6 o'clock, we have the Miami Marlins against the Washington Nationals. Pablo Lopez going for the Marlins. Austin Voth going for the Nationals. Lopez is 2-1 with a 2.4 ERA. Voth 0-2 with a 5 ERA. The Marlins are 11-11, so they haven't completely had the wheels fall off yet, but I mean, I'm sure it's coming because they don't really have too much talent. I mean, Derek Jeter's been doing a good job in the front office by bringing in guys that can compete and actually play baseball there, but they're still the Marlins as of now. The Nationals are underperforming a little bit. I mean, they haven't been able to hit here. They started off a little bit slow, but I think they're going to be able to get back to it. I'm going to stay away from this game. The line is fairly even. You got the Nationals at a minus 121 favorite. Total set at 9. I'm going to stay away from this both ways. I think the Marlins can eke out a win here, but I also don't see a reason why the Nationals couldn't win at home. But, yeah, this is definitely a stay-away game for me. Then at 7 o'clock, we have the Chicago Cubs and Alec Mills on the mound, and then playing against the Detroit Tigers and Casey Mize. Casey Mize making his second start in the MLB in his career. First one at home, actually. Alec Mills is 2-2 with a 4.7 ERA. Casey Mize 0-0 with a 6.23 ERA. He struck out 7 White Sox hitters over 4 1/3 innings in his major league debut on Tuesday. Got a no decision. Yeah, but 6.23 ERA is not great. I mean, he still got the no decision. He kept his team in the game, but I don't know. He didn't get a quality start only because he didn't throw 5 innings, but I'm going to stay away till we see more of Casey Mize here. He's got a live arm. I mean, he'll be able to compete at the MLB level and really be a guy that the Tigers are going to look to kind of hold down that rotation. But for now today, I think I want to make a play on Mills here, but I don't really know if taking him at minus 140 is good value here on the Cubs. Like, their lineup is a lot better than the Tigers. I mean, their whole team is better than the Tigers, but it's just a starting pitching issue. Like, Mize pitched well, so it kind of scares me off a little bit. The Tigers have taken some games from me in the past, so I'm going to leave that right there and move on to the next 7-10 game of the day. We got a really good pitching matchup. The Twins versus the Indians. Kenta Maeda going for the Twins. Aaron Savali going for the Indians. The line, again, fairly even at minus 110. I'm actually going to take the Twins for one of my picks today. Backing Kenta Maeda on the mound. He's actually 3-0 with a 2.27 ERA. Savali is 3-2 with a 2.9 ERA. Maeda is coming off of his best start of the year. I think he went 8 innings. He pitched into the 9th. He didn't get an out. His no-hitter was actually broken up with no outs. And this little bloop single wasn't hit very well, kind of off the hands, right over the second baseman's head. But Savali's been doing good in that rotation for the Indians here. That's been struggling after Clevenger and Plesac kind of were dismissed from the team for now. He's been holding it down there. I like the Twins. I think their lineup is just 10 times better than the Indians, and the Indians are inconsistent there. They've been winning games at 17-11, but I'm going to back Maeda, who's absolutely on a tear right now. I think minus 110 is a really good price. Even though the Twins are on the road, I think this is a good spot to take the Twins. So Twins minus 110 for sure. Then at 8:10, we have the Cincinnati Reds and Trevor Bauer on the mound against the Milwaukee Brewers and Brett Anderson. Brett Anderson and the Brewers are plus 115 home dogs against Bauer. Reds sitting at minus 135 on the money line. The total is at 8.5. I'm actually going to back the Cincinnati Reds and Trevor Bauer. Bauer and Sonny Gray have been really putting together a campaign worthy of both of those guys kind of being a 1-2 punch, the best 1-2 punch in baseball so far. As far as the starting rotation goes, You look at teams kind of like the Mets with DeGrom and Syndergaard. Obviously, Syndergaard out this year due to surgery. But, you go up there with the Nationals with Scherzer and Strasburg. Both of them are getting older. Scherzer a little bit older than Strasburg. But Bauer and Sonny Gray are arguably the best 1-2 punch in the big leagues right now. And I'm going to ride Trevor Bauer and the Reds at -135 today. Then the next game at 8:15 Eastern, we have the Royals with Brad Keller on the mound against the Cardinals and Jack Flaherty. The Cardinals are -183 on the money line, total set at 8. Now, I'm going to have no play on this. I think the Cardinals should take this, but the line at -180 is a little bit steep. Flaherty hasn't necessarily pitched all that well this year. Earlier in the year, he was on a pitch count, and then he came back and had his first start in about, I think it was 3 weeks against the Cubs. He allowed 1 run in an inning and 2/3 on 41 pitches, but you're going to have to turn to the bullpen here probably as he's not stretched out completely. But Brad Keller has been dominant. 3-0 with a 0 ERA, has not let up a single earned run all year. 17 and 2/3 scoreless innings straight. But I think the Cardinals do end up taking this one, but I don't know. The line is a little fishy there. Then at 8 o'clock today, I went a little bit out of order here in times, only by a matter of like 5-10 minutes, but it's all right. We got the Oakland Athletics with Jesus Luzardo on the mound, a left-hander, against Lance Lynn and the Texas Rangers. It's in Texas. The Athletics are actually road favorites at -142, so pretty steep for a road favorite. Texas Rangers coming in at +122. Got the total set at 7.5. I talked about Trevor Bauer and Sonny Gray earlier. Lance Lynn is much of the same this year. For the Rangers, he's 3-0 with a 1.37 ERA. He's making a strong case for Cy Young already early in this year. We're about a third of the way through, maybe a little bit more than a third of the way through this season. Probably about half at this point, which is crazy. But Lance Lynn has been pitching unbelievably well. Luzardo's 2-0 with a 3.6 ERA. He was the A's #1 pitching prospect. And last time out, he threw 6 1/3 scoreless innings, struck out 7 in a win over the Diamondbacks. But before that, he was struggling a tiny bit over 1 or 2 starts. But I'm going to trust the steady Lance Lynn here. He's figuring it out, and he's really making a case here as being one of the best pitchers in baseball earlier this year. So I'm going to take a play on the Rangers at +122 on the money line. And then moving on for 2 more games today at 9:10, we have the Angels with Patrick Sandoval on the mound against Framber Valdez and the Houston Astros. Sandoval 0-3 with a 5.4 ERA. Framber Valdez 2-2 with a 1.7. Valdez is really, really putting it together this year. He's a really good left-handed arm for the Houston Astros. I was about to say the Rockets. He's let up 3 earned runs in 20 and 2/3 innings over his last 3 starts, and he held the Rockies to 1 run in nearly 8 innings on Wednesday in Denver, which is unbelievable considering Coors Field and the fact that they score a crap ton of runs in that stadium. So the Astros are -155 on the money line. I'm actually going to make them another play for today to round that out at 4 for the MLB. I think Valdez gets it done today. The Angels lineup is, it should be good. It's very weak, not very weak, but it's very inconsistent. But there's guys at the top of that lineup, obviously, with Mike Trout. You got Anthony Rendon in there, who they just signed. Shohei Ohtani. You got David Fletcher in there. But I don't know. I think the Astros can definitely get this done, especially at -155 at home. They've really, really been turning around. They're sitting at 15 and 13. They were, I think, 7 and 10 at some point, so they are on a little bit of a winning streak over their last 10. But moving on at 9:40, we have the Colorado Rockies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Ryan Castellani on the mound for the Rockies against Merrill Kelly and the D-backs. Diamondbacks -160 on the money line, total set at 9.5. Castellani's 0-1 with a 3.7 ERA. His last time out, I believe he pitched against the Astros. Yeah, it was in the last series. He gave up a home run to Carlos Correa on a hung curveball and really couldn't find his location with 2 strikes. His final stat line for this one was 5 earned runs, 8 hits, in 5 2/3 innings. So if he didn't get bit by the home run ball by Correa, probably would have been a pretty good start. But then you look on the other side of the ball with the Arizona Diamondbacks, we have Merrill Kelly, who's 3-2 with a 2.5 ERA. He was the Diamondbacks' best pitcher, probably still is the Diamondbacks' best pitcher in the rotation so far, but he's coming off his worst start of the year. He allowed 4 runs on 5 hits over 5 innings against the A's last time. Outside of that start, he's been unbelievable for the Diamondbacks. So I'm going to stay away from that game also just because I think there's a little bit of value on the Rockies if you want to throw that in there, but I think the Diamondbacks as minus 160 favorites is just a little way too steep here. So that rounds out the MLB for today. I'm going to move on to the NBA. We have I think this is 1:30 Eastern. We have the Bucks and the Magic. The Bucks, again, minus 13.5 on the spread. I don't have a money line listed here, but it's probably upwards of like minus 15,000 or 1,500. Total set at 225. Something I've noticed here with the NBA is because these games are played in a neutral site, the lines haven't really been shifting as much. Like the Bucks were minus 13 in the first game, minus 13 in the second game. I believe it was around the same in the third game, and now again here in the fourth game with Milwaukee up 13 or 2-1 in the series. There's at 13.5 on this spread line here. So there's no home and away kind of variance there. So lines are going to stay consistent. I don't really have a play on this. It's a lot. I mean, I would have said to take the Bucks every single game in the series for a sweep of more than 13.5 points, but they ended up dropping game one. But I'm going to move on to the next one. At 4 o'clock, we have the Rockets and the Thunder. The Rockets lead the series 2-1. The Rockets -3 on the spread today, minus 155 on the money line. The total is set at 219.5. Then at 6:30, we have the Pacers and the Miami Heat. The Heat are 6-point favorites. Total set at 216. Now you can get the Heat on the money line at minus 255. Then at 9 o'clock, we have the Los Angeles Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers. Again, for the previous series, we got the Heat and the Pacers. The Heat are 3-0. I just wanted to throw that in there. Looking to close out the series against the Pacers. I think they get it done. I don't know about the spread, but then back to the Lakers and Blazers game. The Lakers are 7.5-point favorites, minus 340 on the money line. Total set at 224.5, and that rounds out the NBA slate for today. Then moving on to the NHL, the last two games of the day, we have the first game of the series between the New York Islanders and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers are a slight favorite at minus 120, Islanders at even money. The total for this game set at 5. You can get the Flyers at minus 1.5 on the puck line at plus 230 or plus 1.5 on the Islanders at minus 270. That game's at 7 p.m. And then moving on at 9:45 tonight, Dallas leads the series 1-0 over the Avalanche. And we have the second game of that series with the Avalanche at minus 145 on the money line, Stars plus 125. As for the total, it's at 5.5. And then for the puck line, you can get the favorites, the Avalanche, at minus 1.5 at plus 185. And you can get the Stars at plus 1.5 on the puck line at minus 215. So just to circle back a little bit for the MLB picks today, I have the Twins with Kenta Maeda going for them at minus 110 on the money line. Then I have Trevor Bauer and the Reds money line at minus 135. Lance Lynn and the Texas Rangers at plus 122. And Framber Valdez on the mound for the Astros at minus 155 on the money line. That rounds out my picks for today. So pretty much it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.